Welcome to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. Each week, we bring you insight, analysis, interviews, and our predictions for the week's matchups around the Northwest Georgia area. Here are your hosts.
All right. Yes, we are here. Your host, I'm Matt Davis, alongside Ian Griffin, as we get ready for the beginning of the 2025 high school football season. And I got to tell you, Ian, it is hard to believe that teams are about to lock horns coming up here in just a couple of days. Well, really, some teams have already started because the Corky Kell started earlier today. So,
that's right.
The 2025 season is underway.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We talk about how it's going to sneak up on us every year. And we prepare for it. We start early. And then it sneaks up on us every time.
It doesn't matter how early you get started in terms of your preparation. Like you say, man, it just seems like it gets here quicker every year. And ready or not, here you go. You know,
let's rock and roll.
With this particular program, aside from our 2025 high school football previews, our coverage of the actual season begins with this program today. And what this is, if you're tuning in for the first time, here on our YouTube channel and Facebook Live, of course, on Friday nights, we have the radio edition, which is basically the audio of the show that you're watching, you know, at this particular time. But basically what we do is we break down, you know, the game's action involving our area teams, focusing mostly on Rome and Floyd County, but we also venture out into some of the areas, Polk County, Gordon County, so on and so forth, and talk about some of the other action taking place. And at some point in the show, we turn our attention to make our predictions for the games and kind of give you our little analysis, if you will, on what we think is going to happen in the game. So it's always a lot of fun, and we have a good time with it. Been doing it for a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's going to be a good time. I didn't have a great season last year. You and the young buck, Grayson Atkins, ran circles around me in the picks. But, hey, you know, we take our best shot, and we see how the chips fall.
Indeed we do. And, of course, Grayson would be with us, but he is getting ready to move off to go to college. He graduated from Model High School last year. Of course, he did an internship at WLAQ, and part of that was being on this pick show. But this year, he's off to bigger and better things. He's getting ready to go to Sanford here in about a week or so. So he's got a lot of stuff he's got going. He thought about, you know, maybe coming in and being a part of this first show, but he's just got too much stuff going on right now, which is understandable. I barely remember what it was like going off to college and all that kind of stuff, but can be a little bit hectic.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got his hands full, and we wish him the best in his new adventure.
No question about it. Well, let's have a look at the slate of games that we're going to be talking about over the course of our program today, and the ones we're going to be picking for sure, except for one, and we'll tell you more about that in just a couple of moments. But we're going to talk about Lafayette Christian Cougars playing at Unity Christian School against the Lions. Of course, they play their home games at Branch Spragg Field at Coosa High School. Got a great partnership there. So the Unity Christian School Lions getting ready to go into action on Friday night. You've got the Model Blue Devils heading to Sonoraville. They'll be playing at the Furnace against the Sonoraville Phoenix. That game went to overtime last year. It's going to be fun to unpack that and have a look at that matchup in just a little bit. The Pickens Dragons are playing at Pepperell Dragons down there in Lindale. So obviously the Dragons are hoping there's going to be a lot of cannon fire and fire-breathing dragons and all that kind of stuff taking place in that matchup. Meanwhile, we're going to be heading down to Mount Vernon and Atlanta as the Darlington Tigers go down there to take on the Mount Vernon Mustangs to open up the season. And so that's going to be an interesting matchup to start the year for them. Then this one's going to be a lot of fun to talk about, but the oldest rivalry in the state of Georgia in terms of high school football, it's the Tryon Bulldogs going to Gordon Lee to take on the Trojans. We'll have plenty of information about that one. You've got the Rockmart Yellow Jackets going down to Cedartown or over to Cedartown, however you want to frame that, to take on the Bulldogs. Meanwhile, you've got the LaGrange Grangers. Say that 3 or 4 times in a row. They're going to be taking on the Cass Colonels at Barron Stadium in the Corky Kell Classic. That's the early game. I think that one kicks off at 5 o'clock, I believe.
So.
On Friday. That'll be televised on Atlanta First News, I believe, and Peachtree Sports Network, if you get that one. And so big-time coverage on that game, as well as the last one we're going to talk about today, and that's the Creekside Seminoles playing against the Rome Wolves at Barron Stadium, rather. in the Corky Kell Classic. So, I mean, right out of the gate, Ian, we have got some big-time matchups that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, it's a trend that has continued over the last decade or so, where you see teams aren't shying away from tough competition in non-region play, and why should you? Doesn't count against your chances to get into the playoffs. It only sharpens your skills as you test yourself against tough competition. So, why not dive in with both feet, right?
Well, speaking of diving in with both feet, as you've just put it, Ian, what we're going to do now is take our first break. And by the way, we do want to thank, right now as we get ready to go into the break, I want to thank our sponsor. Back with us once again is Riverside Auto Group. They've been sponsoring this show as the title sponsor for so many years. I don't even know how long they've been doing it now. But we appreciate their support of this program and coverage of local high school athletics. So thank you very much, Riverside Auto Group. We appreciate them so much. We're going to hear a word from them right now. We'll come back. We'll start, picking some games. It's that time. So buckle your chin straps. We'll be right back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. We're ready to jump in and start picking some games. I can't believe it's time to do it, Matt, but let's go ahead and get to it.
All right, man. We'll go ahead and tee up this first game that we're going to talk about. Give you a little bit of background in terms of the matchup. It's going to be the Lafayette Christian Cougars playing against Unity Christian School, the Lions. Last year, Lafayette Christian, they went 9-2. Unity Christian School Lions, they were 8-3. Had some interesting patches of the season where, they had some teams that didn't have no players to play and different situations where they had a stretch where they didn't play a game for a few weeks and that kind of thing. So it took a little time to get their footing. But then once again, they played for a championship and were runners up last year. So another big successful season for the Unity Christian Lions. Tell us a little bit about what you think is going to happen in this particular matchup.
Yeah. Look, as you mentioned, last year Unity had to kind of start and stop their season. Had a run there of 3 weeks where they didn't play a game, and took them a little while to shake off the rust. And as a matter of fact, this Lafayette Christian Cougars team beat them in the regular season last year, but revenge was exacted by the Lions in the playoffs. They won that game by the score of 57-30, an impressive victory for them. When you talk to Coach Humphreys, they're replacing a lot of guys at the skill positions. Seems like they've got a lot of experience returning at the line of scrimmage, but he seems really excited about these young guys. And again, quarterback Miles Schwartz is going to take over, and he doesn't have a lot of live game reps, but when you listen to Coach Humphreys talk about how he throws a really pretty deep ball, and they're going to spread it out and get it to their playmakers in space in this 9-man version of football, I feel like there's a confidence behind Coach Hump when he talks about these boys. And this is a team that's competed for state titles now, for the last 3 years? They've been right there in the running if they haven't won it. Yeah, 4 of the last 5.
I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, these guys know what it takes to win. I think the young guys get rolling. They get this one at home. I know it's played at Coosa, but they're comfortable there. They've got a season under their belt playing out there at Branch Bragg Field. So I think we see the Lions come out and make a statement in game 1. I like them to win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I'm just going to go ahead and not build any suspense there. I'm going to pick the Lions as well. Obviously, as you pointed out, they're replacing a multi-year starter and Evan Whiteside at quarterback. So that's the biggest question mark, as Coach Humphreys pointed out in our preview going into the season. However, they've got some great senior leadership coming back, size, He talked about their strength quite a bit throughout our conversation. Guys like Elliott Whiteside, Davis Blankenship, also senior wide receiver, defensive back Andreo Sawyer, another guy that Coach Hump, talked about in terms of athletic ability, skill, leadership, all the things that you want in players to help you out. And I think that one of the things that's kind of the bottom line here, because of the strength, size, speed, ability that this team has and some of the playmakers around the quarterback, I think that's going to take some pressure off a young quarterback as he tries to get his feet underneath him in a new role. So I think they're going to figure things out quickly. It may be, some growing pains early on in the game, things like that, getting things going. But I'm with you. I sensed a great confidence from Coach Humphreys about this group. He feels really good about what they have to bring to the table. So I'm going with you, man. I think they get off to a really good start the season here in this first game.
One of the things that stuck out in our conversation with him was how the attention they put on tackling every day. I just feel like Unity's going to come out sharp. That's my gut feeling. And when I pick these games, I sit down and I try to go with my gut and not let myself talk myself into making any brave picks, especially in week one. So we're the same after one.
We're the same after one, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not 100% sure whether that trend continues or not, because pretty much every single game, I didn't think there were really any gimmies this week.
No, absolutely not. No,
I thought they were all pretty tough matchups
absolutely.
to look at, real competitive games, which is great for the fans. I mean, there's going to be some good football played around the area this week. So let's dive into the next matchup. This one is going to be one that went to overtime last year, and Model picked up the victory 21-14 over Sonoraville. This time, it's not at Woodard Tuggle Stadium, though. This is up at the Furnace, so they got to take this one on the road. I'll go ahead and take this one first, but Model, they got a new starting quarterback. His name is C.J. Walker, although he does have some position, experience at other positions and things of that sort. So he comes in. He's definitely a familiar name to people around here in terms of football. He's a senior, but he's got the starting role at quarterback. Dangerous with the ball in his hands because of his ability to run and also to get the ball to his playmakers. Guys like Shaden Woodley, excellent athlete. We saw him play a lot of basketball. I understand he's a really excellent football player as well. Bryson Bell, also Jaden Edwards toting the mail. They're guys that can make plays on offense. And once again, one of those situations when you can distribute the ball, has playmakers around him, that can take some pressure off of him. Plus, this is a Model team that's going to be physical and aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to cause some teams to turn the ball over. I think that's going to be one of the things they're going to be able to do this year. They've got some youth to overcome, but they have some solid talent and some guys that, even though they're youthful, they picked up experience last year because they've been young for a couple of years. Sonoraville's coming in looking for revenge. They get this one at home. They've got a roster size, I read somewhere, of 70 players, so they've got the numbers, I would say more so than Model, so maybe depth could potentially be an advantage for them. But something tells me this Model team, with the way they performed against Almerchi last week in a preseason scrimmage, they've got some confidence, a little bit of swagger about this team right out of the gate. So I'm going to go with Model in this game. I think this will be a close one, but I'm going to take the Blue Devils, like I say, in a close game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about Walker taking over. Taking the snaps under center, he can lean on a senior like Ridge Hardacre in the backfield that he can hand the ball off to. And then he's got a playmaker like Shaden Woodley out there on the perimeter that he can get the ball to in space. And I think that'll help him kind of ease in to his new role as the leader of this offense. Now, you talk about the series. It feels like these teams have played every year for the past 5 or 6 years at least. I didn't look at the series history before we came out, but I know that they've opened up playing against each other now for several years, and all those games have been really close. So I expect it to be close. This one's at the Furnace. We've been there. That's a really, really good home field environment that the Phoenix play in. They're a well-coached team. They've got numbers. But something tells me this Model team's going to be sneaky good. We sat here and talked to Coach Honeycutt, and he's a guy who's not going to oversell anything to you. He's going to tell you how it is. He does have a lot of youth, but that youth got experience last year. I just have a feeling the Blue Devils are going to overachieve this season. They're going to start by going on the road and getting a win here.
So through 2 games, we are feeling the same about these games. So no drama there for the first couple of picks. So we'll move on to the next one. And this one's got an interesting storyline behind it, but it's going to be the Pickens Dragons going to face the Pepperell Dragons down there in Lindale. A little series history. Pepperell leads at 10-2-1. Here's an interesting fact that I always throw out there anytime these two teams are playing, and it seems to happen a fair amount in recent years.
The last few years it's been a common matchup.
There are 3 Dragons teams in GHSA football in the state of Georgia. Pepperell, Pickens, they're playing each other. The other one is Jefferson. Both Pepperell in 1990 and then Jefferson in 2012 have won a state title. So thought that was kind of an interesting fact there. And I was at one of those games. It may surprise you which one. It was not the 1990 Pepperell Championship. I was at home that night listening on the radio. I was at the game where Jefferson beat Calhoun back in 2012. So just a little interesting fact about this one. I'm really curious to see which direction you go on this one, Ian.
Well, look, this episode of House of Dragons should be a lot of fun to watch. I know that much. Look, Pickens edged Pepperell 31-28 last year in the opener, and it was the beginning of a trend that Pepperell Dragons fans would like to forget, where they built leads and weren't able to hold them, lost a lot of close games. Last year, we talked to Coach Haywood about that and what a learning experience that was and how they've approached things differently when they break it down because they have to find a way to close out and win the close games if they want to get over the hump and get back to the playoffs and where the Pepperell Dragons feel they belong. They lost those games last year, but something feels different again about this group. Lots of depth. Moss Tant, now your guy at quarterback. When he transferred over and came into the fold for the Dragons, Sam Ross, who was a heck of a quarterback. We watched him play a few times last year. Heck of an athlete. He's been able to move out to wide receiver. They can utilize his skill set out there with Tant taking snaps under center. They've got a lot of returning experience at the line of scrimmage in the backfield and on the defensive side of the ball. This game's in Lindale. We're talking milk jugs. We're talking cannons. We're talking fire-breathing dragons. And yeah, they're both dragons, but you know the one I'm talking about. It's over the press box. And there's a flamethrower attached to it. I think it's going to be a loud, rowdy night, and I think that the Pepperell Dragons are going to have reasons to celebrate when the smoke clears.
Man, you and I must have been drinking the same Kool-Aid this week because we were picking them the same. Once again, I won't try to build any suspense on how I feel about this game. When you look at this Pepperell team last year and how they were pretty much in just about every game that they played in, I think that one of the things that does, they come into this season with a different sort of edge. They had a terrible taste in their mouth from the way some of those games went last year. So this is one of those years where, they're coming and they're wanting to exact some revenge and kind of get that bad taste out of their mouth. So you mentioned excellent starting quarterback in Moss Tant, lots of weapons, Matt Garcia, Sam Ross, Tucker Glenn, other guys around them. You mentioned the line of scrimmage, the size, the physicality that you have there. Coach Haywood talked about how a lot of their games are going to be won at the line of scrimmage, which you can say pretty much about just about any football game. And I think that the Dragons are going to win some of those battles, no question about it. They're going to be physical. They're going to be stingy on the defensive side of the ball as well. I think this is going to be a significant turnaround season here for the Pepperell Dragons. I'm looking for big things from down there in Lindale, and I'm excited to see that happen if it does. And I look for them to get off to a good start to start the season. So I'm with you. I'm going to take the Dragons of the Pepperell Lindale variety to pick up the victory in this game. So we are the same through 3. We'll talk about one more game before we take a break here. And this one we're not going to pick because we're actually going to be calling the game. As we mentioned to you at the beginning of the show, we're going to be going down to Atlanta, to Mount Vernon, to the home of the Mustangs. I've never had the pleasure of going down to the campus there, so it's going to be a new experience. Looks like it's going to be the same for you. Yeah. And we're excited about this. But series history-wise, the Mustangs, lead. Darlington played last year, won that game 46-27. It was a crazy situation because they were supposed to play on Friday, and like a lot of games in the area, the weather, Mother Nature had things to say about that. They kept delaying it because of lightning up until about 10:30 until they finally had to call it and then turn around and play a game out in the hot summer sun the very next day, an afternoon game over at Chris Hunter Stadium. This one's on the road. Hopefully the weather doesn't do anything crazy there to start the season. But it should be an interesting matchup between two really well-coached, talented football teams. So obviously we're not picking it, but give us a few thoughts on this game, Ian. I know you've dove pretty deep into this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Mount Vernon bested the Tigers last year to open up the season with the delayed start. I know that made things a little bit awkward, but this was what I'm most excited to watch here in this first game for Darlington is last year you saw them transition to the triple option. And, in game one, it took a little while to get things rolling, but they were very efficient in that offense. But there's more experience up front this time around. You've got backs like Miles Twyman and Jace Donaldson who have a year of experience in this offense. And then you've got an exciting young man in Levi Duggan who's going to be taking most of the snaps under center. And again, one of the great privileges that you and I have is getting to talk to all these coaches in the preseason and getting their insight. I feel like Coach Groves feels good about his offense and that they can go out there and run the rock, control the clock, ball control, manage the turnovers, something that bit them a lot last year. I'm sure that's ball security has been a huge focus for them. How will this Tigers offense perform on the road? If they can go out and stay ahead of the chains and grind out those long drives, that is a recipe to go on the road and win. So watching their offense is going to be the thing that I pay close attention to. They're replacing a lot of valuable players on the defensive side of the ball as well. You know how it is in Class A. You're playing both ways, but there are some young guns on defense as well. So how quickly can they step up and be efficient on that side of the ball? But I'm expecting big things from this Darlington offense. I can't wait to watch them get on the field.
I'm looking forward to watching this team as well, and I also got that sense of confidence from Coach Groves, and looking forward to watching this team, as you mentioned, breaking in a new quarterback. That's always one of those things that's a question mark going into the season, but a lot of confidence in this young man. And again, this has kind of been a theme today because a lot of teams are breaking in new quarterbacks, it seems, this year. And it does help to take the pressure off when you've got senior leaders and Miles Twyman and guys like Jace Donaldson and Bodie and all these guys that you mentioned, and some newcomers as well that are young guys that can step up, tote the mail, and help out there in that situation until they get that experience that Levi needs at the beginning of the season. Plus, the roster's grown from 30. We talked about the dirty 30 last year. It's grown
filthy
to
40.
The filthy
That's
40.
right.
And so, maybe a little bit more depth this year going into the year. That makes you feel good. Never can have enough of that. But obviously a tough challenge going up against a Mount Vernon team that has been to the playoffs, just about every year for the last decade. They've got Coach Terrence Edwards. It's his second year as a head coach. He was a standout wide receiver over at Georgia, held an SEC wide receiving record for a number of years. I think that was broken a little while back, but he's a wealth of football knowledge. He's got some talent around him. They've got a good program over there. So these are two good programs to start the season, just the kind of test you want to have to find out where you are. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this game. We're excited about bringing you the call on WLAQ and also providing audio for the Darlington stream that's provided by produced by Northwest Georgia Media. So tons of fun. Can't wait for it. And like I say, we won't pick this one because we're calling it. But again, the one thing we can say about that is this is going to be a good matchup. It's going to be good.
No doubt.
Yep, tough test for both teams. Let's go ahead and take a break. And then after we get done with that, we'll come back, pick a few more games. We're running out of time. So let's go ahead and get to the break.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
All right, we welcome you back to our last segment here of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. And we're going to have to burn through these next few games here in a hurry. We got a little long-winded on the first few games, and the show's going to be a little bit shorter this year because we're going to be doing it at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evenings, and then we got to get the studio reset because the Coach Grove show starts at 7 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and jump in. But Ian, we're going to talk about the Tryon Bulldogs going to Gordon Lee. Series history-wise, pretty lopsided. Tryon leads at 67-22 with one tie. This is a 92-year-old rivalry. Many believe it's the oldest football rivalry in the state of Georgia. So that's a fun storyline right out of the gate. We got some good stuff in terms of these storylines here for week one games. But how do you see this one?
Yeah, it's a tough one here because if there's a year for Gordon Lee to jump up and get the Bulldogs, this is it because Tryon's replacing so much from a team that won a ton of games. I mean, this was an experienced team, deep playoff run last year. They played in a super tough region. But there are a ton of seniors leaving this team. Now, you talk to Sean Patrick, he's all about, building this roster up. I'm going to go with Tryon here, but this is the year for Gordon Lee. If they're going to get him, they better get him while they're young.
Interesting, very interesting. And I'll go ahead and just kind of jump into my pick. You were talking about replacing the starters. I was reading a preview. I think it might have been from Score Atlanta. 18 starters being replaced for this squad. They played a scrimmage with Heard County a week or so ago, ended up losing that game 41-6. And so this is I hate to use this word. I know people don't want to hear this, but this is a rebuild situation here for a Bulldogs team that lost a lot of folks from the squad that's so successful over the last few years. Now, they're going to have some talent. They're going to be physical, hard-nosed, those sorts of things. They're not going to back down from any challenge. But when you look at the other side here, Coach Gross has 9 offensive starters coming back and 6 defensive returning starters this season for this Gordon Lee team, a squad that went 7-4 last year, made it the first round of the playoffs. If they don't beat Tryon this year, it's like you said earlier, you got to take your chances when you get them. They don't get many of them. I think they're going to take advantage of potentially having the upper hand here. So I see it differently. I'm going to take Gordon Lee to win the game.
All
so
right.
We actually
do have a difference.
Where
we do
indeed. Like we might not. We'll jump into this one. Very interesting storyline in this one. Rockmart is going to be playing the Cedartown Bulldogs. Rockmart last year, Ian, 11-3 semifinal finish. Cedartown 9-2 first round, but they have a new head coach coming into this year.
That's right. Tommy Atha takes over in Cedartown, an old Rockmart boy, but he's back in Polk County coaching their fiercest rival. Biff Parsons will have his teams ready to roll in this game, as will Coach Atha. And there's no love lost between these two teams. They've played really close games. Cedartown has had the edge recently. Rockmart seems to reload every year. Cedartown is the same, but there's a ton of talent coming back for Cedartown. I think the depth home field advantage, I'm going to give the edge to the Bulldogs here.
All right. Well, let's see if I see this one in a similar light to my friend Ian over here. Rockmart, they've won the region 8 years in a row that they play in. They've been to the Benz twice during that span. Semifinalists last year, as we pointed out. Coach Parsons has built a program that has sustained success on a level that you just don't see that often. So this is a team that is going to be ready to play in this football game. Coach Atha, when he was at Darlington, 21 seasons, 7 region titles, no losing seasons, made the playoffs 19 of his 21 years, record of 179 wins, 66 losses, has 2 rings as an assistant, 1 at Darlington, 1 at Calhoun. Last year at Calhoun, you will not find another coach that gets as much out of whatever his roster looks like as Coach Atha does. They're going to be ready. This is going to be a super exciting start to the Coach Atha era down at Cedartown in a rivalry game. There's going to be a ton of people there. I can only imagine how exciting that environment is going to be for that football game. And at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think that Cedartown is going to be 1-0, and the Coach Atha era is going to get off to a good start here.
All right.
So there you have it.
2 more to go. You did. I didn't know which way you were going to go.
Yeah, I hadn't done that throughout the show, so I figured we'll do it one time. But 2 more games to pick real quick. We got to burn through these. Ian LaGrange, Grangers at Cass Colonels, playing against, at Barron Stadium, the Corky Kell. Tell us your take on this.
I mean, the Grangers used to be a powerhouse. They're coming off a 10-4 season that has them back to kind of their winning ways here. But Cass last year lost Brody McQuarter to an ACL injury. They had to play a lot of young guys, but I think that galvanized this team. And I'm going to go with Coach Gates, boys, to get the win here. I think Cass gets a big win to start the season.
No doubt this is the best era that we've seen in Cass history in terms of their football team. They've been to the playoffs the last 4 years. They had a quarterfinal appearance a couple years ago in 2023. This has been a program on the rise for a long time. LaGrange has been to the playoffs the last 5 seasons since Matt Napier has been the coach. So this is a program that's been there, done that. They've been there for a long time. Cass is not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. There was a time where they might do that. The word is out. They're a good football program. So obviously both teams are going to be prepared for this one. I'm going to go with LaGrange. I think LaGrange is going to have a little bit more in this game, but we'll see what happens. So we've got 2 differences, huh?
That's right.
All right. One more game to pick, and this one is going to be Creekside Seminoles and Rome Wolves locking horns at Barron Stadium in the Corky Kell Classic. Series history-wise, Rome leads at 1-0. They won 16-6 in 2022. Ian, you're a Rome alum. You
That's
follow
what they
this
say.
program really
That's
closely,
what they say.
keeping the tradition there.
That's
But I
right.
used to say that to Ian every show.
Look, we talked about an odd season for Unity last year. Rome had a really weird start to theirs last year. Had to pull out of the Corky Classic after the bus crash. Had some guys that were injured there. Fortunately, no one was seriously hurt. And they got a late start to their season there. They don't shy away from great talent early in the season. Coach Reed has experience at quarterback. He's got depth. He's got Braxton Essen and Ada McPherson that played valuable snaps last year. I think he's got a ton of playmakers. He's good up front. I mean, Creekside's going to come to Barron Stadium ready to play, but the Wolves are the only team that gets out of there alive. I like Rome.
I like Rome in this game, too. You mentioned Aiden McPherson at quarterback. Georgia Tech commits J.J. Winston, Darnell Collins. There's D1 talent in a lot of spots on the field here for this Rome team, and they're going to be ready. I think one of the things that really helps Rome go into this game is the choices they make in terms of how they handle their preseason scrimmage. They played Douglas last week. They lost a close game, but they got some really valuable reps that prepares you for a tough matchup like this right out of the gate. And with the weird start to the season that they had last year, thankfully they're in a situation where they can kind of get off to a normal routine to start the season. And I agree with you. I think they're going to take full advantage of that situation. We'll pick up a victory and start the season 1-0. So that's it, man.
2
That's our
differences
games for today. I do want to let you know our programming. We've got, obviously, on Friday, Darlington football. And we're going to start with the radio edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football at 3:15. Yeah, 3:15. 3:45, the Coach Grove Show radio edition on Friday at 4:15. The Tiger Kickoff Show from live in Atlanta at Mount Vernon High School or Mount Vernon School. And then at 4:30, yes, 4:30, the Darlington Tigers are going to kick off against Mount Vernon. They don't have lights at their stadium. And so that's going to be an afternoon game. And then after Darlington football, we'll have Braves at Guardians, followed by the Rome Orthopedic Center High School football scoreboard show to close out our football week. So, yeah, a lot of stuff coming up.
Indeed.
Including the Coach Grove Show right after this. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back in just a little bit with Coach Groves. That's going to put a wrap on this edition, the Week 1 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. I'm Matt Davis. He's Ian Griffin. Thanks for being here, Ian.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll bid you adieu. That wraps it up.
This has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. We appreciate you tuning in and invite you to tune in again next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.